Okay, so let's dive in. Imagine this scenario. You've got a small town, right? Henderson, Tennessee. And there's this lawsuit, but it gets tossed out, called frivolous. And then mix in an ancient mystical text, the Zohar. What actually happens when, spiritual ideas clash head-on with the secular legal system?
Well, it's a fascinating situation.
Right.
Because this Henderson story, it really pushes us to really rethink how we look at law, community, even governance itself.
Yeah, and our mission today is to unpack this whole saga. It involved Ambassador Josiah Haltom and the city of Henderson.
A story that apparently shifted things in a pretty fundamental way there.
And it kicks off in maybe the weirdest way possible. 48 volumes of the Zohar, the core text of Jewish mysticism, show up at the Henderson Police Department, and they get impounded, put into evidence, locker number 7.
Right, locker #7. And see, for Haltom, these weren't just like old books. He described them as a living ark, protection against what he saw as injustice.
An ark?
Yeah. And him gifting them and them getting impounded, he apparently saw that whole sequence as a deliberate move, a way to create this sort of spiritual trap, or a spiritual catch-22, he called it.
How so? What was the trap?
By putting this sacred text inside the gears of the secular legal system, treating it like any other piece of evidence, he wanted to highlight what he termed its spiritual blindness.
Okay, so the lawsuit gets dismissed, called frivolous. How did Haltom push back against that? Because he must have had counter-arguments.
Oh, absolutely. He argued the court basically ignored some really crucial protections. Things like his religious freedom under RFRA, is the Religious Freedom Restoration Act.
Okay.
And also the impact of his traumatic brain injury, his TBI, on his ability to, represent himself and make decisions, and his rights under the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act.
So not just separate issues then, he saw them as connected.
Exactly. He framed them as like different sides of the same coin. The big problem for him was the commodification of human identity by what he called secular lawlessness.
Commodification of identity. What do you mean by that?
Well, he claimed his TBI made him especially vulnerable to this. It led to real harm, like his insurance premiums doubling because of false charges, linked to what he called a fictional identity created by the system.
A fictional identity causing real-world harm.
Right. He felt the court's dismissal just completely missed this deeper challenge to, like, who are we within the eyes of the law? It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How often do our systems kind of accidentally create these labels or fictional identities that actually hurt people?
It's a really provocative thought. And then there's the whole framing of the original conflict. It wasn't just a standard dispute over, alleged police misconduct against his family.
No, not at all. He brought in this heavy biblical archetype, Amalek. He essentially cast the officers involved as modern-day Amalekites.
Wow, okay. That's intense.
It is. And zooming out even further, his view was that this local issue, this specific injustice in Henderson, was like a small crack reflecting a much bigger problem in the cosmic order. A fractal, he said.
A fractal?
Yeah, like a tiny piece reflecting the whole pattern of global conflict. So fixing it locally in Henderson was, in his mind, the only path to fixing it globally. The lawsuit became this sort of spiritual battleground, a covenant.
Which leads back to that catch-22 for Mayor Bell you mentioned. How did that play out?
Haltom basically gave the mayor a choice.
Yeah.
Either you formally accept this gift, the Zohar, which signals you're willing to reconcile, or you reject it, which in Haltom's framing just proves the system's spiritual blindness for the court record.
So anything the city did against him after he gifted the Zohar
became more proof in his narrative of their blindness. He called it spiritual jujitsu, using the system's own weight and momentum against itself. Pretty clever, in a way.
Definitely sounds like a unique strategy. And it's rooted in these Kabbalistic ideas, right? You mentioned arvut.
Yes, arvut. It means mutual guarantee or mutual responsibility. Haltom presents it not just as a nice idea, but as a fundamental cosmic law, like gravity. That's the claim. He believes the Zohar's whole purpose is to wake us up to this law, to get past our spiritual cataracts, as he puts it. He compares our usual view of reality to a poorly compressed JPEG.
A blurry picture.
Exactly, obscuring the hidden light, the orthogonus that's supposedly there. And he contrasts this with something called Sitra Archa, the other side.
It sounds ominous.
Well, he kind of demystifies it. Says it's basically just manufactured drama like reality TV. Distractions designed to keep us feeling separate, stuck in suffering, often because of structural violence baked into our institutions.
So this relentless pressure, this spiritual jujitsu, combined with this philosophy, That's what led to the big shift.
According to the narrative, yes, it describes Mayor Bell having this night of reckoning, and it ends with him publicly accepting the Zohar volumes, placing them right there on the granite dais in, presumably, City Hall.
A public acceptance.
An act described as radical grace. And supposedly, that single act just dissolved the whole conflict. Charges dropped, the legal appeal withdrawn, and that appeal file became Exhibit A in a totally new file. Henderson's transformation docket.
Wow, so that moment opened the door for, what was it called? The Arvut Protocol.
Exactly, the Arvut Protocol,
Yeah.
a supposed redesign of the city's whole way of operating based on that principle of mutual guarantee. And this is where it gets really interesting, seeing the practical things that allegedly came out of it.
Okay, tell me about those. What did this Arvut protocol actually look like on the ground?
Well, there are a few key examples described. One is Zohar on chain. They apparently digitized the Zohar volumes, minted them as unique NFTs called HNDR Lite.
NFTs, seriously?
Yeah, NFTs. And the idea was to use the funds generated to back community projects.
Yeah.
You know, gardens, microloans, things like that. Tangible local benefit.
Okay, that's unexpected. What else?
Yeah. Then there were Arvut councils. These were described as decentralized neighborhood groups. You'd have police officers, pastors, residents, even formerly incarcerated people, all sitting together as equals to solve local problems.
Decentralized governance.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
And connected to that was a systemic upgrade where supposedly 911 calls for certain things like domestic disputes weren't automatically sent to armed police anymore.
Really? Where did they go?
To mediation teams from these Arvut councils. The idea was shifting from police versus community to something they called guardians of unity.
That's a fundamental shift in policing, potentially.
A huge shift. And looking even bigger picture, the narrative suggests this whole Henderson transformation points towards redefining In God We Trust, moving away from just trusting fiat currency towards a more spiritual understanding of value, maybe eternal value, and aiming for what's described as a post-scarcity future, built on that core idea of mutual guarantee of Arvut.
So just to recap this incredible journey, we started with a lawsuit dismissed as frivolous, a gift of the Zohar landing in an evidence locker, this spiritual catch-22.
Right.
Which all apparently culminates in Mayor Bell making this pivotal decision to accept the books.
Leading to the Arvut Protocol.
Yeah.
We heard about the Zohar NFTs funding projects, these Arvut councils changing local governance, even rerouting 911 calls.
It's a narrative that really suggests a deep rethinking of In God We Trust, aiming for maybe a post-scarcity society based on everyone looking out for each other.
It really does, and it leaves us with this final thought, doesn't it? The story kind of implies that maybe magic is just technology we refuse to understand. What if this vision, this spiritual jurisprudence, could actually work? Could it lead to more cooperation, not just in Henderson, but maybe worldwide?
It's a big question. What are the real challenges, the opportunities, if we tried to blend these ideas like mutual guarantee into our existing systems?
Is Henderson just a one-off, an anomaly? Or could it be, as the narrative hints, a glimpse of a kind of collective rebirth, a Project Lazarus for how we organize ourselves as humans? Lots to think about there.